back to the show. So now that we're here, my guest is on the line. Sean, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's start from there, wherever the Lord takes us.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate it. It's a privilege and an honor to be here tonight. My name is Sean Ray. I believe I met this brother about a month ago, I think you were saying, and we met through kind of a mutual acquaintance of ours. So
Vicky
it's grateful
Joy.
to be here. Yeah, Vicky Joy. Yeah, shout out to
Give
Vicky
her a
Joy.
shout out.
And, yeah, you know, got a lot of love for her. She's doing great work for the Lord and for the kingdom. And, you know, appreciate, you know, just everything that she does, and the fact that, you know, she introduced me to you, and vice versa. So, you know, I tell people all the time, I feel like there's nowhere we're not supposed to be today when you're walking in a relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right?
Amen.
I believe our God is all about divine appointments. And so that's kind of what I guess my story would be today is, you know, just kind of my journey into finding the Lord Jesus Christ and surrendering my life to him. And so,
Amen.
yeah, I got a pretty wild background, you know, like I was raised in Illinois. I lived on the outskirts of Chicago for a while. By the time I was a teenager, I moved into inner city Chicago. But before I get to all that, you know, I'll just say I grew up with a young teenage mother, had no father. My mom left my dad when I was 2 years old. So I was actually born in Connecticut. And then my mom moved me to Illinois when I was about 2. My grandmother lived out there at the time. She had, you know, married a new man, and who became my grandfather, obviously. And so my grandmother had a really big influence in my life from the time I was a child, you know, considering my mom was a single mom and very young teenagers, continuing to have more kids. So I have siblings, brothers and sisters that are under me, but I was the oldest. And I guess I kind of went through the roughest parts of my mom's life. And, you know, just a lot of the stuff she went through in her past, a lot of trauma and things that were dealt with through our generations kind of just came out into the home, you know. And so my mom and I didn't get along very well growing up. We had more of like a brother or sister relationship, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, even I feel like the Lord nowadays has really started to just kind of rekindle our relationship, and just kind of, you know, we've been able to move forward from a lot of our past.
I have,
not
trying to interrupt you, but I kind of know.
No, go ahead. Please do.
Yeah. Like I've kind of had that kind of a relationship lately with, just, you know, my parents in general. Like I love my parents to death, but, you know, you have rough times. I'm not saying anything was crazy, but, you know, things weren't perfect. And, you know, you kind of have that awkward feeling where you love them, but you can't give them a full hug yet. And then slowly it gets better, you know? I mean, that's the way I feel about it, at least, you know. So.
Yeah, I feel like we go through stages, you know, as far as, you know, our relationship with our parents. You know, we have a tendency when we're real young to idolize our parents, you know, if our parents are a big influence in our lives. And then, you know, we get a little bit older. Eventually we hit our young adult years. We start to demonize our parents because we start to regret some of the character flaws and things that we might have picked up from them. And then eventually we get older and we humanize our parents, right? Because we're all humans.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, we're all flawed. We're all broken, right? We're all desperately in need of a savior in our lives, you know?
Tell me about it. Yes, sir.
So, but yeah. So my mother and I,
No, go ahead. I was going to say, when you were growing up with your family, you said that you were more closer to your grandmother. So you lived with your grandparents full time, or how did that?
No. So I lived with my grandparents for about a year and a half, from the age of about 10 to going on 12. So almost 2 years, by a year and a half, 2 years. And that's because, man, you know, from the time my mom, you know, kind of separated me from my father, I'll just say it like that. You know, from the time I was separated from my father, I just turned into just a wild child. You know, I just feel like even at that young of an age, you know, you have some kind of understanding of what's happening. And as a kid, we don't know how to process those things, obviously, when we're separated from our home and from our mother or our father like that. So as a kid, I just kind of took it out on everybody. You know, I was an angry child. I was always running away from home. I was constantly just terrorizing my mother. And, you know, my mom and I just kind of had like a yelling and screaming relationship growing up.
Yeah.
But my mother was still, you know, like she was young. She was still very much in her party years. And, you know, now not having a father, you know, I dealt with many different kinds of individuals coming in and out of the house. And, you know, I saw drugs and alcohol from a very young age that was in the home, you know. I remember when I was really, really young, though, like before the age of about, from before I moved to my grandmother's house, you know, I used to have to watch my brothers and sisters and stuff when I was really young. And, you know, she kind of separate us in the living room, and they'd be, you know, in the kitchen and in the dining room, you know, partying and stuff. You know, I went through some things during that time to where I just kind of really despised the way that my mother was living, even at a young age. You know, I remember I used to like steal her cigarettes and I'd break them and throw them in the trash, or if I find anything, alcohol or anything, I'd dump it out and try to throw it away. And
that's the angel in you, man, the innocence in you.
Yeah,
kid,
you know, that was before, you know, the hurt and the brokenness, you know, really got a hold of me. You know what I mean? Like, to where I started to just kind of take it out on myself, I guess you say, and just kind of on everybody else.
Did you?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my, you know, we spoke a little bit, but, you know, I have my childhood stuff too. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever get into any altercations with the people that came over?
You know, that's a great question. I've never really been asked that question, but no, as a matter of fact, later on, you know, when I became closer to my teenage years, because I grew up really fast. You know, when you come from a broken home, you know, I went instantly to the streets, man. The streets raised me right away. You know, like they were right there. You know, everybody was older than me that I ever hung out with. They used to call me the seasoned teenager, right? Because I was the young buck, always hanging out with all the older folks and stuff. And that's, you know, it's just because I was trying to get away from my home environment.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did that, when you started hanging out with these people, you know, and all this is very interesting to the audience, you know, just so the audience knows, I don't care who the person is, what their belief is, what their race is, but I'm curious, you're Chicago, right? Or Connecticut at this point?
Oh, Chicago. So I don't remember anything before.
Were you hanging out with mostly like, you know, black gang members, Mexican gang members? Like how's the, you know, the culture out there? How did that all start? How did you meet these people?
So as far as the gang culture goes, it's embedded into society. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of engraved. Like, it's like not everybody you hang out with is a gang member. You know what I mean? Like, especially where I was at kind of in my younger years, which were kind of in the outskirts of Chicago at that time. So I guess you would call that more like the suburbs and stuff. Okay. Now, growing up out there, there are gangs out there. So the gangs from Chicago are everywhere. You know what I mean? So some of my friends in those younger years I went to school with had family members who were in gangs, you know, mothers and fathers or cousins or whatever who, you know, were affiliated in gangs and things like that. But that didn't become like a serious kind of outlet for me until after I lived with my grandmother and then moved back in with my mother. Right. So I was going on 12 years old at that time when the gang culture really, really started to influence my life. You know, but before then it was just like, well, everybody I hung out with just came from broken homes. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. Some of them were part of the gang culture and stuff in that time, but my immediate environment was just, you know, all of us that came from, you know, we had no mothers, no fathers, just, you know, people looking for love pretty much in all the wrong places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you come from a broken home, the streets take you right in, you know? And so before the age of 12 years old, I can't say I had seen gang members, kind of been around them a little bit here and there. They're obviously at parties and things like that. But at that young age, that wasn't something that I was really influenced by yet, you know, until, like I said, before I even turned a teenager, you know, I was going on 12 years old when I first, you know, kind of started to interact with the gang culture itself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Were you still going to school at all at this time, or when you were starting to hang out with these people?
So I was bouncing around. So my mom moved around a lot. We didn't stay in one home. You know, I lived in many different cities outside of Chicago, in Illinois, everywhere from kind of east to the west of northern Illinois. You know, it's kind of like a melting pot for everybody, really.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of, you know, but for me, because my mom was never very stable. You know, my mom was, like I said, she was very broken herself, and so, you know, she had a hard time kind of building a stable life for us children. She promised it to us all the time. Oh, one day we're going to have this and we're going to do that, you know? And so from the time I was young, you know, you just kind of, all you have are these promises.
Right? Like you're waiting for that day, you know, you want that toy. Don't worry, honey. When I get my paycheck, you know, when I get this new job, it's going to come next week, next month.
Gosh,
I've heard that many times.
And I give my mom credit, man.
Yeah,
like,
they tried.
I'm not going to sit here like, well, right. And she was young, but the cool thing about my mother was she still tried, right? She still went to school and she still worked, you know, 2 jobs if she needed to, you know, and so I can't sit here and just completely throw my mom under the bus.
Absolutely
because she
not.
did try. She was very young, but I did spend a lot of years resenting my mother, you know.
It's hard,
and it wasn't, well, yeah, I mean, you know, it wasn't until I found the Lord, actually came to the Lord and let the Lord take control of my life when he actually started to, you know, mend and heal and restore that relationship, you know, with my mother and even with my father now, you know, who I've never known, you know, that I now have a relationship with. But that's
awesome.
You know, that came very much later, obviously.
Yeah.
And the Lord's still working that out too. But he's a believer. My mom is not, you know, so you can pray for my mother. Everybody out there, pray for my mother. Her name's Danielle.
Say a prayer. Amen.
Yeah, definitely. Just pray that the Lord would capture her heart, man, you know, because you know, she struggles with that. And
Amen.
that's because, you know, I'm not here to share my mom's story or anything, but, you know, there's a lot of witchcraft and masonry in our history.
Oh, wow.
Of our family, right?
Oh, so you didn't tell me that, buddy. That's
no,
interesting.
I know. And it's not something I really dive too deep into because it's still, you know, it's still hurts, you know, for my mom and for my aunt and, you know, just some of the stuff they went through when they were children, you know.
You're a big box of different things, brother. That's crazy, man. In a good way. Like I respect you for how you came out because people could come out differently. You get what I'm saying?
Well, you know, my grandmother's prayers. I'm going to just stop right there. Like my grandmother, from the time I was a child, she told me, Sean, I will die praying for you. You know, and she looked me in the eyes. She'd be like, one day you're going to be a pastor. You're going to marry a woman in the church. And I'm like, yeah, okay, grandma, as I throw up pitchforks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was living reckless, you know what I mean? And she would constantly tell me how she's praying for me. And I know her prayers worked even when I was out there on them streets because I'm still alive today.
Yeah.
I've been in so many situations where I shouldn't even be breathing today, you know? Yeah. So I'll say that, man, if you think your prayers that God doesn't hear you, God hears you. God answers prayer, especially for, you know, if you're interceding on behalf of someone's life. So I know there's a lot of mothers and fathers out there that are praying for their loved ones, man. Don't stop praying. Don't stop praying.
Absolutely.
My grandmother, unfortunately, didn't get to see my salvation. She passed away in 2011, and I was at kind of the height of my heroin addiction at that time. And it wasn't until many years later, you know, I got out of prison 2014, 2015, and that's when I had a coming to Jesus moment, which we'll get to. We'll get to that.
No, absolutely.
But I just wanted to lift up my grandmother, man. It's like,
absolutely,
I could sit here all night and just talk about that woman.
No, my grandma I was very close to my grandmother too. Both of them. I was very close to both of my grandmas, my mom's side and my dad's side. I was more closer to my dad's side when she passed away, bro. I mean, for like a good week, I was just being, you know, some people were saying, bro, you got to snap out of it. No, man, I was heartbroken. It destroyed me. Both my grandmas when they died, but I was closer to my dad's one. But I was closer to both of them than I was to either my parents, and that really broke my heart and it destroyed me. And just to move forward to what you said about prayer works, just like about 3 nights ago, I'll share this quick story. I'm going through a lot right now with my family and my life. Just had a lot of things going on, and my dad has recently inherited he has like a little health issue. And it's kind of, you know, it's scary. So I prayed and I was looking up at the stars, and it was at night, and I was looking up at the stars and I kept praying. I was praying for about maybe a minute, not even like a minute max. And I looked at the stars. I said, Jesus, I said, please. I was like, because when I was a kid, I used to get a lot of signs. When I would pray for something, God would like literally, I said, God, do this for me. He'll do it right there to make a sign. I don't get that no more. So I was praying and I looked up and I said, God, if you still hear me, I was like, please just help us. You know, I'm not asking for much, but let's just make this smooth. Like, just take a little bit the edge off, take the pain away, like just help us a little bit. Give me a sign, give me any sign, anything, give me a sign. I'm looking up at the stars, and one of the stars I'm looking at, that I was staring at for the past, almost a minute, it just shut off. Like imagine the star was a light switch and someone hit the light switch. I don't know if that was a coincidence, but that's really weird. Since when do stars just turn off?
No.
So
yeah, God doesn't deal in coincidences. I don't ever believe in coincidences, especially because I've had too many divine appointments today. So the beautiful thing, I call that a Jesus kiss, man. That's to let you know he'll never leave you or forsake you. Not only that confirmation brings comfort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you get those comforting, moments from God, those signs, and they're not going to be, God will use the natural to perform supernatural things in your life.
Yeah.
And that's what I've come to learn. It's like, that's the beautiful part about God's timing. Is like
someone just hit the switch, man.
Yeah.
Someone turned the star off. It was weird.
He's
like
the one. He's in control.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just, the relationship that, we have with our grandparents, they're special. They're super special, man. Yeah. And, they get to pour into us in ways that our mothers and fathers aren't able to, And so that's how my grandmother was for me. But yeah, that's why my mom struggled, because, my mom and aunt went through hell, and my mom has a hard time, reconciling that.
Yeah.
Even after my grandmother got saved and started preaching Jesus. So, religion hurts worse than sin, brother.
Yes, it does, because the truth hurts. Truth hurts. Because
when you've been hurt by the church, man, or when you've been hurt by somebody who you've put your faith and trust into.
Oh, man, that aspect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard to reconcile that. So that's kind of where my mom is. Like, she feels like she was hurt by, the things that were happening to her while her mother is off going to church and praising and worshiping Jesus, but yet at home, it's a much different story.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I could kind of imagine. Yeah, so, I could use, 1 + 1 = 2. I could kind of imagine. I'm sorry to hear that, man. But,
yeah, well, these are a lot of the things that you don't know growing up, right? These are a lot of the things. So, my mom, because of what she went through, doesn't remember the first 15 years of her life. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, SRA victims, that's what happens to them. They kind of split apart from
kind of
their
like
immediate realities.
Kind of like make another. I would say that a lot of the things that I've seen and read about these kind of situations, you kind of just how you said she forgot. You kind of just create a different personality and kind of put all that stuff in the back burner and kind of hide it.
That's what our brain does. So there's been brain scans of these things. Our brain actually goes through a splitting, right? It's almost like if you were to get cracked, like if your skull was to get cracked open, it would crack, right?
Yeah.
Well, anytime trauma happens to you, that's what's happening to your brain. It's cracking, splitting your brain. So, these occultists, they know all this stuff. And the problem is they utilize these for ceremonial practices. It's unfortunate, because, when you get to the higher up to this stuff, obviously there's intelligence involved to it. But just trauma alone, brother, just a traumatic event that happened to you in your life can split you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can end up compartmentalizing things, and you can become, however much or however long that's happened to you, or you had to endure, however much of that you endured is however bad it might be for you,
Yeah, I have.
Split. My mom has those issues. This is so they call it DID. They have terms for it.
Yeah, I've
the DSM-4, dossiers and stuff.
Yeah, doing this podcast for many years now, and just even before this podcast, I've been through things. I've seen things. I've had my traumas. I've experienced demonic experiences, things I can't explain, seen all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that I learned just being through all this, reading other people's stuff, is that the occult. I mean, you probably know all this because you have a history of it. The occult uses this to to kind of control people. They'll make them have split personalities, and then each personality has a different job. Like you said, there's knowledge behind this. It's not just for no reason. It's for a reason. It's like a hierarchy. You have the captain, the soldiers, the pawns, the sacrifice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think what really makes that a reality is, our government performing these acts, with MK Ultra and all the different things that they do. Like all you can do, you can just pull this stuff up and be like, oh yeah, we're doing this for a long time.
You can say a word, send them a certain text, make a certain noise, and it's kind of like they, turn the switch on. Sometimes they don't even know what they're doing. Sometimes it's like those movies. I think it's a joke, but they make that movie. I forgot what it's called with that dorky actor, but it's called Ultra. I think it's called something Ultra, and when they make a signal, he just turns into like a crazy, assassin, but it's supposed to be a joke, but it's, it's a real thing, right. I say, that Hollywood does it. They make it a joke but it's actually the truth and all stuff like that. Yeah.
So, that's when you graduate into,
the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I'm into all that. I was a big lover of Russ Dizdar. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Which one?
Russ Dizdar.
No.
Russ, you might talk to Vicky about him, but he was he dealt in SRA, satanic ritual abuse, for 40 years.
Oh, okay.
And he had a radio show that reached out all over the place, and he would pull people out of the occult.
Wow.
And would counsel them, and that's Russ had a big influence on my life when I was coming out of the gang stuff and coming out of the drugs and gangs, because the things he was saying really actually pulled me into a deliverance. And I could talk about that, I guess, if you wanted to, but you know what I mean? I went through just the whole process, throwing up in my living room. It was crazy.
Oh, wow. Like an actual exorcism type of thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And it was just me in my living room listening to Russ Dizdar's podcast one day. Had no idea there was things inside of me that I, hadn't been dealt with. But I cried out to the Lord because I was dealing with, the same thing. Look, man, that gang life, bro, that stuff splits you too. This is what I mean. It's like whether it was done intentionally or it was just done by, how your life, was, or whatever kind of life you live. And with the gang culture, obviously, because behind the curtain, right? Who's behind the curtain? Satan.
Exactly.
Right?
There's some kind of force.
He's the master of evil and deception. So, he just repackages it in all these different, shapes and sizes. And, that's how he's able to, that's why he's able to deceive us the way that he is.
Oh, absolutely. As I say, he can give you whatever you want.
Nothing new under the sun. Yeah, it's nothing new under the sun. Guys.
People got to understand that God can give you blessings and so can the devil, but the devil is just what he can give you material because it's his to give. The material things are his to give, and he can give you the cars, give you the drugs, the girls, or the guys, whatever people are into nowadays, but he's going to come and collect when the times are due, and people don't understand that. And it's usually in the worst way. I mean, look at P. Diddy. Look what's going on with him. He's paying his dues right away. And I'm pretty sure he's set up by the same people that made him rich. You know what I mean? So
yeah, because that's how, right?
That's how it works.
Taxation, man. That's how it works with Satan. He always wants something in return.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, I would like for you, if you can, let's talk, because I have a lot of kids. So I'm a boxing coach. I train all ages. I train people, who just want to come in and get a good workout. I even train, I have this guy that works at the White House even, I'm blessed to have my job. Thank you, God. But I also have kids that come in that are a little hard-headed and they think they're thugs. They think they're tough. And some of them I teach them how to box, and instead of them humbling them, they think they're even cooler. It's like, bro, I'm not going to teach you to be a bully. They think they're tough. Some of them think they're in gangs. And a lot of these kids are going to listen to this podcast along with all the people that listen, but I want them to hear some information that what you've been through, and let them know that, let them know, just people know in general, that these people that don't know what gangs are, because I have family members that are gang members. I have uncles doing life in prison for some crazy stuff. I have cousins doing life in prison for murdering somebody. But a lot of these kids don't know that when you want to be in a gang, yes, you do really have to pick up that gun. Yes, you really do got to go shoot that guy if they ask you to. Yes, this is real. You can't just pretend and wear a necklace and, wear a gun with no clip in it and just pretend. No, when you join a real gang, this is real, and there are consequences like death and many other things,
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're ready, just go however you want,
True ties to gang culture, like if you have real ties to gang culture, your life is no longer your own. So, I mean, if you ever feel like you want control back over your life, the gang culture ain't going to be for you. Because like you just said, they put the gun in your hand, they put the mission in your mind. You better act, or they're going to act upon you.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. There are consequences and repercussions for your actions, especially if you're trying to become a part of something that ain't even you anyway. Right? I mean, people are out here trying to die for what? A piece of concrete they don't even get to name, right? A piece of power they don't even really have. You know what? So you feel big and bad, so you can feel strong, so you can walk into a place and everybody could be scared of you. That's not what you want.
That's pretty,
you don't want that for your life. I used to live by a motto: loved by few, hated by many. And I'll tell you what, it almost destroyed me too. You know, like that gang life, man, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. But I'll tell you this, man, in places like Chicago, we grow up in an environment to where you're either going to get down or you're going to lay down. Meaning, if you live in this environment, they're going to harass you and they're going to attack you and they're going to come at you and they're going to make you join. They're going to make you join. You're going to have to fight to survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of people, where I come from, man, once I moved into the inner city of Chicago and I started to realize this gang culture is generational, brother. You know, this has been passed down since the 1800s, brother. Like this comes from a place, man, that has nothing but evil attached to it. There's nothing but evil attached to it. You can look at the history of gangs and mobs and look at the outcome. Look at what happened. None of them got to sustain that life. None of them. Yeah, you're either going to fold up, you're going to snitch, or you're going to lose your life. Or both. Plain and simple. You know what I mean? I grew up with the twins. Look, I grew up with the twins, man. There's two twins in Chicago who, you know, got El Chapo set up on the wiretap, man. These people are in witness protection for the rest of their lives now.
Oh, wow. Man, you just dropped a big old name right there, bro. That's wild. So now, like, what? How does that? So their life is just completely running away. Does the government, like, let's just say, okay, they got witness protection. They're in this city. The spot looks a little hot. Does the government still help them be hidden, or you're on your own at that point?
So I can't get into the details of how that all works.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
I'm just asking. I'm just kidding. No problem.
Well, it's situational. You're talking about what we're talking about here, man. It goes deeper than just gangs, man. This goes into people's livelihoods, bro.
Yeah, man, it's wild.
Like, this ain't just like, man, I'm just joining this thing to earn a little bit of money to get up on top. Like, bro, this thing is life or death for people, man. You know what I mean? And look, my guys out here, look, they're not able to even interact with each other anymore, bro. Like, it's only going to be by the grace of God if they actually fully make it out of this thing alive. And I'll tell you what, the hand of God is all over them. I'll tell you this, the only way out of that lifestyle is through a right relationship with Jesus Christ, and however he sees fit for you to leave. That's the only way I've ever seen out of this thing. Not just from my own personal story, but from a lot of my brothers. I have a ministry today where all of us are ex-gang members out of Chicago, man, that have all given their lives to Christ, and we're now pushing peace today, brother, because that's what it's all about. You don't want that chaos. You don't want the voices. You don't want the trauma. You don't want to be looking over your shoulder. You don't want to live in that fight or flight mentality, so you never know if you even gonna make it to the next day. Like, to step out here and flaunt and think you're cool for being a part of a gang, you're going to come across somebody who's actually living that life, and you ain't going to like how it's handled. You're not. That life ain't for nobody, brother. And if you don't grow up in an environment to where you ain't got no choice, then what are you even doing? Why? You know, like, if my cards would have been different, you know, I look at some of my friends from my earlier, younger years, and I look at the life that they ended up having, and the families that they have, and the things that they had in their life, the childhood that they got to have, and everything like that. And there was a moment in my life there where I wished I could have lived that life, man. I wish I could have just went to school, man, and done what I was supposed to do, and, you know, I was a bomb-ass basketball player. I loved playing basketball. Like, I could have done something with that. You know what I mean? I could have been somebody. I could have been a real influence in somebody's life. And that's not to say that God isn't restoring the years that the locusts have eaten. But, man, you don't want to spend 29, 30, however long, many years trying to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're going to waste your life away. You're going to waste your life away thinking that you're going to become a statistic, laying in a gutter one day. Everyone's going to forget who you even was. Nobody cares. Out of sight, out of mind in that lifestyle, brother. Like, what do you want? Do you want a real identity? Do you want to leave a real legacy? You want to be an asset to the community, or a thorn in the side the rest of your life? You have to ask yourself. Eventually, you got to ask yourself that question. You have to come face to face with reality. Like, that gang life ain't for you. I don't care where you come from. You know who I admire standing here today? I admire the neutrons who fought to stay out of that lifestyle. I admire those guys. Them are the guys I look up to. You know why? Because they can go anywhere and they can do anything. I got limitations on my life. I can't go across that street over there. I can't go into that building over there. I can't go to that block over there. I lose my life.
Jeez.
What kind of life is that? You know what I mean? Because that's what the gang culture brings you. It puts you in an echo chamber. It puts you in a box. And if you step out of that box, you lose your life. It's just like that.
Damn.
Wham, bam. Thank you. See you later. On to the next one. You look at Nipsey. Look at Tupac. Tupac getting involved in the gang culture. He was never no gang member. Man, he went to an art school, man. That dude was a genius. What he was doing, getting mixed up in that gang culture, man, that's what happens to you, my brother. That's what happens. You lose your life. And then people are just talking about you. You know what I mean? You don't get to leave no real legacy.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty deep. The stuff when you said you don't want to, the 30 years that the locust ate up, 20 years, when you say that, it really hit when you say it. But it's true though. But I also think that, this may sound corny to some people, but how do you know this is not the path that you had to do to be a person to wake people up to God, to not make these mistakes that you did and help people out? And then, you know what I mean? It could, like you said, everything's not a coincidence.
My thing is, that's always true. My thing is, that's my message for everybody. Doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done. God can always restore those years back. God can always put you to work, and you can become a light and a witness to people. You know what I mean?
How old are you now?
Happen.
How old are you now?
I'll be 39 this year.
All right, you're still a young man. Look at this. See?
But still a young man.
Still a young man, and you turned your
life. Yes, I do believe that God had used my past to help try to benefit somebody else's future. I do believe that. Because I don't believe what happened to me was by accident. I don't. But I look back at all of my loved ones, everybody that I was close to, all my friends, relatives, people I grew up with. They're gone, brother. They didn't get this opportunity. That's why I'm taking advantage of it while I'm still here. So my message to you is if you're hearing this message and you don't know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you are not promised tomorrow. I don't care what you walk out here, get hit by a car. I know it's the oldest saying in the book, right? Oh, yeah, I'm not promised tomorrow. But let me tell you something, man. Eventually you're going to come face to face with your mortality, and you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, where am I going after this? Do you want to know? Do you want to know? Right? And also, do you want to know that if what you believe in is a lie? Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to know the truth? Man, everybody's going to have to face the truth one day or another. I just pray that you get that opportunity to do it now before it's too late. Because I know many people that it was too late, brother. Absolutely. And I don't know where they're at. You might want to know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Do you know that you know that you know? Not do you think do you know, but do you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me is more important than anything. And I don't care if you come from the gang lifestyle. I don't care if you just come from drug addicts. I don't care where you come from. I don't care if you never knew the Lord and just one day were presented the message. None of us are righteous. None of us are good in our own nature. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. Every single one of us. I'm not standing here holier than thou. I'm standing here just as much a sinner saved by God's grace that you are. Very much the same. I am in no way above anybody. I have an extra level of grace for people who come from, the kind of background that I come from.
Yeah.
I understand the struggle of what it means to pick and choose righteousness over darkness. Because I realize that the life that I came from and a lot of people come from, that's not a reality for them to be able to choose righteousness like that.
Yeah.
And so if you're in an environment to where you get that opportunity, man, take it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the message that you're giving is exactly what that people, some of these people need to hear. Like you said, it will mentally change you and it'll put you in a position where you start to have limited decisions if you're controlled by some kind of gang life. But like you said, you'll have more respect too for those people that go through that and come from it, because people don't understand how hard it is to change these decisions, because you have so many things that are negative to get out of that lifestyle. Like, for example, some gang members, you're automatically iced. if you get out of the gang. So that's kind of like a motivation to not get out. You're also sometimes, depending on the level you're on, you're also making a lot of money to do simple little runs or whatever it is you made yourself used to. Maybe you're one of the hit guys. Maybe you're an enforcer. I mean, at that point, you're already locked into that mentality. You're making thousands of dollars a day. Some people are, not all of them, but it's a lot hard to get out of that decision when you can make quick money. I mean, it's really, for example, let's just say you're a drug runner. To go across the border, you're getting paid 50 grand to go across the border and get back. You know how hard it is for that person to change his life and go work for minimum wage? You know what I mean? It's a hard decision to snap out of that kind of, I would say.
Or try in Chicago, bro. It's family, homie.
Yeah.
Like try, you know what I'm saying? Try being raised in a family where your mom is an SD and your daddy's a Latin king.
Yeah, that's the whole,
right?
the whole thing. Yeah.
Bro, like these are the people I grew up with.
Yeah, you're deep.
That's the confliction that's going on in their homes. You know what I'm saying? To be raised in an environment to where this is your reality, brother. Like if you're not shown anything different, this is your truth. This is what's real. You know, this is the only card that you get that's dealt to you.
It's wild, man. I've never really.
You know what I mean?
I never thought about it. I mean, obviously that's what's going on, but I never thought about it until you said that right now. That imagine being, I just can't imagine. Let's just say the first words I speak, and I'm already remembering my family in a gang, and I'm just growing up that way. I mean, it just be embedded in you so much.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, you're holding guns bigger than your dang head, bro.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
You know, you're pushing and slanging dope and shaking up and this, that, the third, and you just hanging out like that, and you a kid. Like, this is the reality. This is the environment that these kids grow up in the south sides and the west sides of Chicago.
Wow.
You know what I mean? These guys grow up in an environment we call them red zones. Ain't no police force. Ain't no school systems. It ain't nothing but gang. It ain't nothing but gang wars,
That's
brother.
Wild.
Like people live, eat, breathe, and die right there on those streets, bro.
Really quick, I saw, we can't believe everything we see on the internet, but I've seen a couple videos, okay, and they're supposed to be in Chicago, and these are real videos. I don't know if it's a city in Chicago, but I've seen a video, like at least 10 videos of 10 different men walking in, like, you know, they have the footage from the liquor store, and it's just random people walking in with shotguns and ARs, but they're not trying to rob anybody. They're just walking around that way because it's simply Chicago, and in a red zone, they call it. And there was one where there was a guy looking in the backyard, and he was recording some dude, and he was running around with a shotgun, and the guy said, "Hey, what are you doing in my backyard, bro? I don't want no problems." And the guy with the shotgun, he had a ski mask on, but he's like, "Nah, bro, chill out, bro. There was someone back here with the gun. I'm just trying to keep y'all safe." And he just walked away, like, just so calm, like just a guy with the shotgun in your back. But he was cool. He was like, "I'm just protecting the neighborhood." And I was like, Jesus, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, there's all type of videos out there. You know, there's a video from a cop that sat underneath the bridge on 18th Street, and he was like, "Just watch this," and it was like coming up to sundown. It was like 9:59 going on 10 o'clock. All of a sudden, 10 o'clock hits, the sun's all the way down. Next thing you see, like cockroaches running out. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 jumping up on top of the cars, coming at each other, bucking at each other. All of a sudden, gang wars instantly.
Wow.
Just like that. As soon as the sun goes down, bro, it's on and popping. And the cops, they just sit there. They're the cleanup crew. We call the police the cleanup crew. If you think you're going to cry out and the cops going to save you, you're wrong. Because cops get killed all the time trying to pull stupid stuff like that. Wow. Like I got a couple of stories of cops getting killed right on my block because they were undercover and they was trying to, you know, set up a sting to where they was trying to take down a gang leader or whatever for selling, you know, narcotics and stuff. And they stepped right into the middle of the Larasas, you know what I'm saying, and the Vice Lords shooting at each other.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this happens, you know, on the daily, brother. Like, you know, we have, so the statistics we have in Chicago are not added to the national database. You have to go to the Chicago statistics in order to get like the homicides, the school shootings, all that stuff. That's not added to the national databases. Right. So you got to go in, you got to actually enter into the Chicago database to even find out how much of this is actually going on. And it's way more than they'll ever tell you. And it's always been like that. Chicago's a sanctuary city. It's a city that holds immigrants, and it's been doing it since the 1800s, right? We've had many of immigrant movements that have come into the city, which is what's brought the gang culture to the United States. You know, started with the mob. The mob came over here. The first place they set up was in Philadelphia and Chicago. Chicago was the center hub for their order of operations. and it still is today. Chicago Outfit runs the city of Chicago. We call it the Windy City because of our corruption, not because of the wind.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the gang, the mob culture, it's embedded into the way our city was even built. We had the Chicago Fire. Right after the Chicago Fire happened, the mob came in, built back 85% of the skyscrapers. That's why we even have a city, because the city was built by the mob. We call it Mobster City.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of history with the Chicago gangs.
A lot of history,
absolutely.
brother.
So
back to, Johnny Rosielli, to Sam Giancana, all the way back to Capone and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what bled into, kind of the splintering of the street gangs and stuff. And,
so
we don't have to get too much into the history of that, or whatever. But
no, but a lot of people, just a quick little history. Yeah, that's true. Chicago is very big, notorious, all the way from 1800s, like you said. It's a very big
1800s. Yeah.
So speaking of all that,
Capone moved to Chicago and became a gangster.
Yeah, he was.
People don't know that's part of the story either.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Like, Chicago was mobster city, brother.
Gang city, straight up, even today. So
pimps, players, hustlers. That's it.
Yep. With that being said, I wanted to ask you, so what age did you start getting into the gangs? And if, however much information you want to give on that, obviously understand. Mm-hmm. And when was your first arrest? How old were you? Was it juvie, whatever? And just kind of walk me through how it felt when you first got arrested, the first time going to juvenile hall or prison, whatever it was, jail.
Right. Yeah. So I never went to juvie. I had a couple of times where I probably should have, but thanks to my God-fearing, loving grandmother, I feel like between her prayers and her kind of intervention in my life, she was a mouthpiece for me in a lot of ways when I was a kid. And so, I got out of a lot of trouble and stuff when I was younger. So I got away with more stuff when I was real young than I ever got caught for. I used to get caught for all the petty stuff, possession of weed, drinking as a minor, crazy stuff, all the big stuff, and that's not to say I didn't have other harder stuff going on in Army and stuff like that. But you know how to get rid of that stuff. You figure out, what I mean? So I caught my first felony charge when I was 16. And it was a breaking and entering, a robbery case. Yeah. We had a possession and a robbery case, and they tried to get me with a home invasion, but I ended up getting it knocked down just breaking and entering and a robbery or whatever. And so I in Illinois, they have what's called a first offenders program in Illinois. So when I was 16 is when I caught my first felony charge. Now, legally, you can't go to prison until you're 17, but if you're 16 and you get tried as an adult, you can go to what they call a first offenders program. And it's boot camp. It's straight up like military boot camp. And they send you down to southern Illinois, a place called Dixon Springs. And, it's military style boot camp for six months or 180 days is what it is. And, they bring all these city boys down there down in the Shawnee National Forest, and they just kind of whoop the crap out of you for 6 months. I
bet it ain't no joke either. I bet it was hard, right?
No, man. And it's, especially back then, like they still put their hands on you and stuff back then. Nowadays, like we actually got a couple of officers fired, but also one of them arrested, and I think had to do some time for some of the stuff he was doing.
What was he doing? What happened? What did that guy do?
Well, it was starting like, his name was Officer Racy. I'll never forget it. Like this guy was wild. He was just PT us to death. But then, like, he'd make us be in the front lane and rest, butt naked in the shower. So you'd be like, ass to mouth with like another inmate.
What
I mean? Like in the shop. Oh yeah, bro. Like, because if you got in trouble, they'd make you do what's called the front lane and rest, which is push-up position. You'd have to stay in the push-up position for, however long they wanted. Legally, we were only supposed to be down there for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. They'd keep you down there forever, bro. And then, so this guy used to, like, he's the only one in the compound that used to make us do this in the shower while we were all butt naked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, your face would literally be right in somebody else's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that guy's a sicko is what he is, yeah.
Yeah, but what really did it overboard was there was a guy, he was PTing the crap out of us one day, and so they had this thing called motivation. And you'd have to carry around like a 150-pound motivation log. It was like a tree trunk that you'd have to carry around all day, right? And like you'd have to wear this orange vest, and they would stop you and they'd PT you, bends and thrusts, push-ups, whatever, all type of crazy stuff. Well, one day they had this big hill that goes up from the cinder pit, and they had these two kids, he had these two kids going up and down the hill with this big old log. And I mean, it was half of a tree they were carrying up and down this hill. Well, one of the dude's legs broke. I mean, it literally snapped and had. We're kids.
Yeah.
We're like, you know, none of us are older than 17. Maybe a couple people might have been 18 in there. You know what I mean? But most of us are like 16, 17. You know, and we're carrying around these big old logs and stuff. Well, this one kid's leg snapped in half. And it was almost like he acted like he didn't even believe that it was happening. So he's like sitting there and he's trying to rip him up, make him stand up. And every time he'd make him stand up, he would just fall limp to the ground, you know? And we're looking at him and you could see the bones sticking out of his leg. So we're screaming from the cinder pit like, bro, his leg is freaking broken. And we're like screaming at him. And he didn't care, dude. His face is beat red and he's like, get up. And so then he ends up figuring out that the guy's not getting up. So he yanks him, grabs him, and he drags him all the way to the med unit. And we watch this dude screaming bloody murder as he's dragging him all the way to the med unit. Yeah, bro. So I'm like, man, we went through hell in that place. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
Your best bet was to try to just not be seen. Do everything you're told to do and just don't be seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Jesus. Oh, man.
So that was my first experience with prison, right? So you do a couple months in a medium prison down in Vienna before you go there. But I mean, you go to prison. That's the thing. Like, I'm 16 and I'm actually going to prison. So I was sent to Stateville prison. So Stateville's the shipping and receiving before you get shipped off to your main camp.
Oh, man.
But Stateville ain't no joke.
Yeah, but really quick. Let's slow it down. When you got to that first, because I've been in jail a couple of times, and it's just that feeling. When you first went to that transferring thing, how did you feel? Like, what was your feeling? Like, geez,
bro,
what's going on?
You know? You're trying to swallow in your stomach, like you're trying to pick your heart up out of your stomach, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's awful. Like, I just wanted to know how it's awful.
Well,
man.
And I'll even say this, like, I mean, you want to talk. So even with the racy thing, like that happened when I was in Stateville. So when I first got to Stateville, and you got to go through all these stations, you know, you got to go through all these tests, and you know, you got to go through, you know, the receiving part, right? So when you get into receiving, they book you into the prison, and that's an all-day process when you get to prison.
Yeah.
Right. So you end up going through all these different stations and stuff. Well, the last station you go to is the med unit. Right. So everybody goes into the med unit, you know, to get everything checked out, whatever. So I'm standing in line at the med unit, and I'm in this hallway, and the hallway that you're in on each side, you got A through Z wing, and in each one of those is like 5 tiers high. Right. And so got A through Z wing, 5 tiers high. I'm standing in the hallway. I'm standing at the med unit. And the next thing you know, one of the doors opens up and you see 2 black guys walking out with this one white dude. And he's screaming bloody murder. And we're like, what the heck? So as they get closer to the med unit, now they're just dragging this guy, mind you. They're just dragging him.
Yeah.
And like, there's like, there's like no remorse, nothing on their face. You know, there's just blank face, just dragging this dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? And so as soon as he gets closer, you notice his whole jumpsuit's just blood red.
What?
Well, so they opened up the med unit right in front of us. I'll never forget it. One of the officers looked at us with just this darkness in his face, and he just threw the guy. As he's staring at me, he throws the guy in the med unit, and then he turns around and walks away. And I was like, dang,
that's your first
I'm 16
day?
years old, bro. That's the first day in prison. This dude just got raped in his cell and was drugged to the med unit by the officers.
What? What? Dude, that's awful, brother. God.
Yeah, bro.
So there is
So you think it's cool to be in a gang. You think it's cool to get in trouble until you get to prison and you realize your booty hole's at cost.
Jeez. And like, do you have any background? Like, why? Like, just for I get reasons.
I don't know. You'll never know.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? That happened again like that, almost very much different incident. But when I was in the receiving center down in Orlando, Florida,
what happened?
For my last bid was the last time I saw something kind of equivalent to that as far as a rape goes.
Okay.
I saw lots of people get poked up. I seen a hammer stabbed into the back of dudes' heads.
Oh my gosh.
Bro, prison, man. See, and here's another thing. If you're hooked up into a gang, you ain't going to a minimum security camp.
No,
you
absolutely.
might not even go to a medium security camp. You'll get lucky if you go to a medium max, but most of the time you're going to go to somewhere between a medium and a maximum security prison if you're a gang member. Just remember that. Right? You're not going to go to a regular camp with everybody else. And if you do, it's just by nuance or proxy. You know what I mean? Like, you just happen to. But, dude, that gang culture where I come from is very serious.
No, absolutely.
You cannot put rival gangs together. If you do, the officer who did it, his ass is getting fired because you know what I'm saying? People's lives are at risk. And obviously, Cook County in Chicago, that's the whole story in itself. But Cook County is prison. You get sent to prison in Cook County. If you're in the cell with a rival gang member, you're not lasting in a day, let alone a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're done.
Yeah. So,
I've always gone to high level gang camps and stuff every time I went to prison, even when I was younger.
Man, dude.
Yeah.
Geez. So you're 16 years old. You're getting to prison, and I don't care who you are. I thought the same thing. Every guy thinks the same thing. You're scared of getting jumped or your booty hole getting played with, and you're in there, 16 years old, and the first thing you see is a guy that just got brutally raped. Like, dude, I can't even imagine like the thoughts that's going through your head. I mean, dude, as a whole.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a young punk kid. And by this time, I'd already been starting to put in work and stuff with the gangs and stuff like that, right? So I get to prison, and I'm like, I'm good. I got a care package waiting for me. I just got to find out where the Latin folks are at, and I'm solid, right? It's when you walk in there and either, because they'll get you paperwork too. Mind you, if you're affiliated in a gang, before you even get into the camp, the gang's got your paperwork. They already know you're coming.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, oh, yeah. So if you're a sanctioned gang member, right? So you gotta remember, okay, so in that lifestyle, bro, you got guards who are gang members, you got police officers, you got firefighters, politicians are gang members, right? So imagine having a prison guard, right, who's affiliated with the same gang as an inmate. Okay? There's treaties going on in prison, right? So the guard's giving him information that he's given to the whole rest of the gang. That's just the way that it works.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no way around that when you're affiliated with a gang. When you're affiliated with a gang, look, you're marked. You are marked everywhere you go. You even go into a database to where, like me, for instance, I'm in what's called the NCIC gang database. And so anywhere I go in the country, if I get pulled over, there's a red flag, my gang number next to my name, and legally they can't approach the car with less than 2 officers. And so they have to call back up, right? So even if it's just a traffic violation,
jeez, that's crazy.
I gotta wait for the cop won't even get out the car. I could sit there for an hour before another cop comes, Like, so like this stuff scars you for life, bro. Like there's things that I have to deal with. Like I'll never leave the country. I'll never get an opportunity to leave the country. I'll never get to own a weapon. There's a lot of things that you don't get because of the choices that you make.
No, bro, I'm there too.
There's a lot of opportunity I don't have, bro.
I'm not allowed to own
that I don't
either.
have today. So I got to figure out the other ways to make it.
Absolutely.
Thank you to the grace of God. Like here's the thing. Like once you come to the Lord, man, and the Lord's leading, guiding, and directing your life, that's when your life will start to come together for the good. I'll just say that. But until that, man, and you're stuck in that lifestyle, you're stuck trying to figure this thing out, man. Like, you don't want to be really affiliated with a gang, bro. It's like, nobody really wants that.
Yeah. There's no way.
I understand about wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself. I understand about wanting to be a part of a community of people where it's like everyone's riding together. I get it. But let me tell you something. Out of the 10 people you riding with, you might only have one in that group that's actually riding with you.
Absolutely.
There might only be one person that you might think everyone's got your back. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you got to crawl yourself out of the bucket all by yourself. And where are your guys at? Nowhere. Bro, you get abandoned in that lifestyle. You get set up by your own people. You get like I said, I don't wish this on my worst enemy, bro. Like what you get involved in, what you become a part of is something that is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
They make it seem like it's this great grand brotherhood of people who are trying to better themselves. I mean, if you you start reading the gang literature, you think, oh man, this sounds pretty positive, right? No, man, it ain't what you think it is.
No. like how you're saying about, like, of course, no one in the right mind wants to live a life where they're looking over your shoulder, possibly have to go to prison. But like you said, it's that family vibe that you're attracted to. You kind of have like this, you have an older brother now type of thing. If you're the younger one, you kind of have that father, older brother kind of vibe. And that's what kind of keeps you around. And like you said, there's no one in their right mind that if they had the option, it wouldn't rather be, in the gang with guns and all this violence. They could have the same amount of respect and care from other people and not be in a gang. They would do that. And I agree to that. But like you said, not everybody has that option. When you're born into it in generational, it takes a lot more to snap out. It's like how the Bible says, there's generational curses. And I kind of think that kind of goes in the same way. You kind of have to break the cycle. You become
hard-hearted.
Yeah.
You become hard-hearted. And then you wake up every day looking for how you can destroy somebody else's life.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's a cycle, man. It's a sick cycle.
And Satan has a sick and twisted way of making it feel good too.
Yeah,
that's the messed up part.
And right? I would go ahead and say that, like, for example, I spoke to people that have been through traumatic things, and I've certain people I talked to, I'm not gonna say their name, but they want to keep themselves hidden. But I know people that have been molested when they were kids, males that are molested by other males, and they have told me with their own words that they have that feeling sometimes of wanting to do it to someone else because they feel so shitty that it happened to them that they want to do it to someone else to make themselves feel better.
Well, I'll tell you this, bro. If you don't come into this gang ready to get your ass whooped, then this life ain't for you.
Yeah. Because
you're going to get your ass whooped sometimes every day by your own people.
Yeah.
Physically, bro. They're going to put you through the ringer.
How does that, so how does that work when you first went in to this gang? You're like, what was your first, like, just if you can, like, what was your first altercation in prison? Like, what happened? Like, sometimes people fight over a bag of chips. Like, what was the reason why it happened? How did it go down? You know what I mean? If you can say that, please.
So let's see. Let me think. The first altercation I had in prison. I think it was over a cigarette.
You see what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Yeah. No, really though, because what they were doing. So yeah, this is it. So you have to clean your pods, right? So they'll come around, man. The guards will come around and, like, once in a while they'll check the pods, make sure you've cleaned your pods, and whoever has the cleanest pod will get to go to chow first, right? So if you keep your dorm, your pods clean, stuff like that, that's normally everybody in the pod's trying to get their stuff clean, right? Because it's all about staying clean in prison, man. You don't want to catch nothing in there, because you catch something in there, who knows? You'll lose a limb or something.
Yeah, dude, crazy.
No, seriously, like, they'll just chop your limb off.
Jeez, man.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, you got a toothache? Well, we'll just go ahead and pull that shit out,
Wild,
like, dude, like, you don't want to get sick in prison. You don't want to be hurt in prison. And that's what makes prison so bad. It's like, you're not going to go get the same kind of medical help that you're going to get out on the streets. So, think twice about all that.
And then even that, just, coming from my, thought and just hearing stories and the little time I went to jail. I've never been to prison. I've been to jail, and I can just imagine prison is just, 20 times worse. The last thing you want to do is be injured. So, cause all you're thinking about would have to defend myself. You never want to be weak or injured. At least that's how I felt.
So I'll say this. I grew up in the Latin, so I came up within the Latin gang. So I was what you call Latin folks. So, I was affiliated with a gang that rides under what's called the United Latin Organization. So the gang I was affiliated with was called Satan Disciples.
Wow, so Satan Disciples.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, they insane gangsters. So, I'm not going to go too deep into our ties and where we're at as far as, like, hierarchy and stuff on the streets.
No problem. Understandable.
Stuff. You know what I mean? Because, it does. I could, but, you can go back. There's other podcasts and things I've shared that stuff with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no problem. Respect. All respect. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to get to the meat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really,
yeah.
Because, it's all the same, just packaged a little differently for all the gangs. You know what I mean? And really, at the end of the day, you're fighting over colors.
Yeah, colors and street names. Yeah.
You're fighting over corners to sell drugs. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're killing each other. Man. That's what I'm saying. You're killing each other over nothing. Bro,
it's
like,
wild.
you literally commit your entire life to those streets, and they give you nothing in return. Nothing.
Nope.
They give you nothing in return.
And
you know. But anyway, I say that to say this, because in the Latin culture, man, you'll catch more ass whoopings from your own people than you ever will from a rival gang member.
and why is that?
And I say, well, and that's because, you know, we like to do what's called a 720, where it's just where we call a friendly fade, or we tighten each other up. So
Okay.
we're always trying to make sure everybody's equipped for war, because
Okay.
you never know when something's going to pop off. And the whole part of being affiliated with a gang is to be prepared and ready at all times.
Yeah.
That's part of our gang literature. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's part of the things that we say within our laws, our lit laws and literature and stuff. So you have to abide by a certain set of standards, right? We call it our moral compass, right? So, you know, if you violate one of these laws, you get violated. You know what I mean? Like, your own people stand you up against the wall, put your hands behind your back, you know, light this match. And by the time this match is burnt out, you know, in between that, we're whooping your ass. You know what I'm saying? And you can't fight back. Or if, you know, like if you're in prison, say you're in prison and, you know, you say, oh, I'm affiliated with this group, whatever. So you start getting in with the guys and stuff, and they might not know you from the block or from outside or whatever. So they want to test your gangster. They want to test you. They want to see if you're a gangster. All right, you've been saying this for the last couple of months. Now let's go find out, you know? And so that's how it is too. It's like, you can fake the funk for a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
If you ain't ready to throw down, that's what I'm saying. Like, over time, bro, your own people are going to test you.
Yeah, someone's going to pull your card eventually.
We'll go out on the rec yard. Yeah, we'll go out on the rec yard. Let's go behind this building over there. You know what I'm saying? And the guard towers, they'll sit there and watch y'all go at it too. And next thing you know, you're going at it with your guys, you know?
So
out on the rec yard.
Was a moral compass broken when in the middle of this altercation, you said you got into your first altercation over a cigarette? Did you guys fight? Did you guys use weapons? What went down?
No. So at that moment, there was no weapons. So the thing about prison is, before anything severe pops off, there's an order of commands, right? There's a chain of commands, right? So if, like, I get in an altercation with another gang member in prison, which in this case, that was the case. So I don't know. I think he was a Blackstone or something like that. He was part of a whole nother organization in prison. And so at that point, you know, it's just me versus him.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, you know what I'm saying? You got his guys standing at the corner. You got my guys standing at the corner. And we just going to mop each other up. And at the end, you know what I'm saying? If we don't get caught and both get thrown in the seg, then we just go on about our business. But if it's a little bit more severe or more serious, you know, it could be anything. In this case, it was just a cigarette. So, you know, tighten up, handle your business. You just box. You know what I mean? So it doesn't usually turn into anything more than that unless there's some real backstabbing going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless there's something like it. So I'll say this, man. There's no structure there's no organization on these streets anymore. There's no more structure on these streets, bro. Like, none of these gangs have gang structure anymore. They might know their laws, they might know their literature, but nobody's abiding by these laws and lit anymore. No, but they haven't since the 90s, bro.
Yeah.
But when you get to prison, on the other hand, they take it very seriously. You will abide by these laws. You will abide by these bylaws. You will act accordingly. You will know your literature. You will know how to stack. You will know how to shake. You will know how to handle business. You know what I mean? Like, in prison, and you're affiliated, you come off the streets, we have what's called lit coordinators. So if you get to prison and, like, say you kind of like just joined the gang on the streets or whatever, or, you know, like, you've kind of maybe like been involved for a couple years, whatever, because we know that on the streets it's a little bit more laxed when it comes to knowing your literature, because if you're willing to bust that thing or you're willing to ride, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to take you just like that. You know, it ain't as much about like what you know as much as it is about what you do out on the streets. Now, in prison, you got to know your gang literature, because of you're also living in the same place with other rival gangs. And so that's how we identify each other in prison, is our literature, by our laws and those things, you know. So we have what's called lit coordinator. So if you need brushed up on your lit, you come up in the joint, you let OG know, hey, I need to be brushed up on this or that. And they'll send you to, you know what I'm saying, lit coordinator, brush you up on your literature. and you go from there. But normally you don't have the complications of guys not knowing their literature, in time, because that's something that people strive, that's something you work overtime to make sure you know that stuff. You know what I mean? Because that's just as easily could get you slipped up in a situation that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
No, absolutely.
Whether it be false flagging or whatever the case may be.
And what would, with all this stuff going on, what is like, a daily day, you wake up, you're in prison. What's usually the routine? You're in there, you wake up, you get your chow, I'm assuming, and then at some point you get to go to recreational time. And I know some prisons have different kind of, rec time. Some people are in prisons where you're in this big room and your cells are, your cells are around, but you're also, your recreation area is also in the same room, and they stay in there for whatever 24 hours or 23 hours of the day. They get 1 hour out or whatever. How was your prison setup? Were you mostly inside, outside, or how was it?
Well, my first bid was 22 and 2, which means 22 hours you're locked in a cell, 2 hours you get an hour out for rec, hour out for day room, and that'll kind of switch.
Oh man, that's pretty brutal.
One day you'll get an hour out for day room, and you might get an hour and a half, whatever, depending on the guards you got, and you might get a half hour depending on the guards you got.
Man, that's awful. Man.
So I mean, it's hard telling stuff, because you're locked in the cell. But that's where my first bid. I went down when I actually did time. My home camp was in Mount Sterling, Western Illinois Correctional, and that's a medium max prison. And so you get a cell, 2-man cells. You know what I mean? Most people in there got life sentences.
Oh man! And I would ask
I had like 5 years or something like that.
And a lot of people say in these prisons, is it true that the lifers are the ones that are usually the ones killing and raping because they're there for life? They have nothing to lose. Is that true? Like, it
depends. It depends. So in Illinois prison, if you got a life sentence, you're either going to be one of two things. You're either going to be, you're going to be like in the books, in the law library. You're going to be going to school. You're going to be working a job. You're going to be, you're going to be trying to take advantage of your time while you're in there, using the resources that you got. You know what I mean? Like that's a majority of the lifers in there, is like, they're actually more at peace than a lot of these guys who are short timers, believe it or not. And that's because they've come to terms with the fact that this is their life for the rest of their life. So you're either going to do the time or let the time do you. Yeah. It's either one of those.
Oh man, that's scary, dude.
And that's what I mean, is like, you go to jail by yourself, you leave out of there by yourself. So while you're in there, you defend yourself. Like you have to figure out how you want your time to be. Like what is your time going to be like? So you can get in there. Like if you ain't got nobody on the outside sending you money, then you're going to get a little, job. You're going to wash some laundry, or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. Yeah. Like you're going to try to, make people's beds or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Try to get on something to
keep your mind right. Yeah.
Occupying your time, right? A lot of people read books, man. Become, some of the wisest people I know are in prison, bro. Some of the most talented people I know are doing life in prison. I'll never forget my first time down, bro. When I went to prison, I went out to the basketball court because I played basketball. And you grew up in Chicago, you play ball.
Yeah.
So I go straight to the basketball courts. I'm out on the basketball courts. You got these guys out there that be dunking over Jordan.
I was about to say, bro, they'd be going hard in there, dude.
Like, I ain't never seen what I've seen out here like what I see in prison, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if some of these guys had a much different life that was dealt to them, much different cards that were dealt to them, they could have,
done something amazing.
They could have been, like, man, I've heard, some of the best rappers you'll ever hear. They're not mainstream, brother. They're sitting in a cell right now. You know what I mean? Like some of the most talented individuals you ever meet, bro, will never get the chance to do anything with it.
That's why I try to tell these kids, man, stay in school.
That was probably the biggest imprint I had when I first left prison the first time. It was like, wow, I could not believe, like the people I admired and looked up to out here, I couldn't do it anymore because I just...
You found better people in prison, yeah?
Well, I mean, just like, not better as far as morally.
There's nothing
obviously,
wrong. Yeah.
These guys will dunk on you in the rec yard and, you know what I'm saying, eat with you at night, but then they'll take your booty hole in the middle of the night too.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Lord have mercy. Oh, man. It's funny, but it's not funny. Oh, jeez. It's funny, but it's not funny, man.
Don't go in there looking for a moral compass, bro.
No kidding, bro. Man, that was, you took me on that one right there. So,
but
you know, with that being said.
I've seen it all in prison, bro. I've seen it all.
Like, with that being said, bro, like, I just have, like, so in prison, how often does this actually happen? Like how often are these dudes getting, you know, their booty? Like, and when it happens, is it because they're targeted? Did they do something? Or are they volunteering? Were they forced? Did they owe someone money? Like, how does this work? Because it's so crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
So they walk around with, you know, you got some of these guys that walk around with boys. You know what I'm saying? They have boys. Like
what do you mean boys? Like younger guys or what? What does that mean, boys?
Just when you keep a boy, that just means you got somebody that, you know,
it's like
ready to slob on you at any moment.
So it's a code word that you have a boyfriend in jail, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you know.
And how does that work? Like as soon as they come
bro
in.
Got a boy. Oh, bro got a boy, man. You would have never expected it, man. That dude be getting it in out here and shit. He got a boy. Dang, he got one too. Dang, man. I thought bro was straight. Like,
wow.
Nope.
And,
yeah, bro.
And is this like
how often does it happen though? You ask how often does it happen? That depends, right? So it depends on you, right? So if you come in there, like I'll say this, bro, coming from where I came from, man, getting locked up in the places that I've been, you know, I thank God I was affiliated. I thank God there was those moments that I, you know, and I'm not saying that I'm not trying to inspire this or influence this.
No, but it saved you though.
Because of my reality, it saved my life.
Yeah, I'm about to say it saved you.
I'll tell you what, bro. What Satan means for evil, God will use for his good. He will.
Amen.
So I could look back on my life and I could see all these things, like all this, you know, darkness in my life. God has completely flipped it on its head, especially for me, because now it's perspective, right? So like I'm thinking it's me that got out of all these, that my ego, my arrogance, my intelligence, I did this. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I didn't have nothing to do with that. That just so happened to be the life that was dealt for me. And that's, you know, that just so happened to be part of my testimony.
Jeez. And,
you know,
when you're like, so dude, it's like this stuff always just blows my mind. Like how it's like the jungle. So when you're in there, like when you witness this, like, do you have any examples where you saw a guy that went in there, good person? I mean, no one's good. I mean, everyone has their mistakes. You're in jail though, but you're just one of the ones that maybe he was in a little bit in over his head. Maybe he did something one time and it wasn't really him. Have you ever seen someone go in there like that, and then within a couple days or a week, they're all of a sudden someone's boyfriend? Like how does it work, bro? Like, you know what I mean?
I got a good one for you. Well, I'm glad that's funny you asked this, because I feel like it's, I was already felt like I was going to tell this story. But my last bid down in Florida, so we was in a pot. So in Illinois, all the time I did in Illinois, we were all in cells, right? So when I got to Florida, there's really only like 3 actual prisons. Like prisons, they call them in Florida. Yeah. But they have like 300 to 400 what they call camps.
Oh, wow.
Which are prison.
Okay.
Oh, they're prison, all right, but they don't, you know, they have just kind of different terminology for them. But they're prison. It's not, and you know, I went to a level 7 gang camp, it was called, in Florida prison.
Okay.
Right, so it was up in Jackson Correctional Center up in Malone, Florida.
Okay.
Right, so when I was in there, there was a guy that came in. He only had I think he was sentenced to a year, but he only had 8 months to do, because he had already done a couple months in county, right? So he only had 6 or 8 months or something like that to do the prison.
Poor guy.
So they end up sending them. So the camp, Jackson Correctional, it's not only is it a high level gang camp, but it's also a disciplinary camp. So if you get in trouble in another prison, they'll send you there. Or if they just feel like they want to be a dick, and sometimes once in a while they'll throw a short timer in there.
I was about to say, yeah, dude.
You'll see kind of periodically you'll come across people that, got a year, 2 years or something, but it's mostly, 70 plus years these guys are doing multiple life sentences. So that's majority of that camp. Right. So anyway, this guy comes in, he's got about 6 to 8 months to do. While he's in there, he was so desperate, right, to marry his wife. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to marry his woman. So they had all these plans before he got locked up to get married, But because he got locked up, he couldn't do it. So he had set it up through the prison system, because you can get married while you're in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. If you have somebody on the outside that's willing to marry you, like you'll have a ceremony and everything in prison.
And don't they let you sleep with them too? They can stay there for a week or whatever.
You know, that they call that conjugal visits. They used to do that a lot more. There are ways to kind of get away with it in visits, but not no more. You know, or if you might be on good terms with the guards, they might kind of turn their head the other way or something like that. But not legally, no. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Actually, as a matter of fact, a lot of my guys, I had about 3-4 guys in prison that were, you know, some of my closest guys in there. That had multiple baby mamas in prison. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my one dude had three kids from 3 different camps, from 3 different guards he knocked up in prison. What? Yeah. Oh, man. And then he was sent to Jackson, where I was at. Well,
doesn't sound like he had it a little easy to me. That's better than the other way around, man.
Well, this is my guy, man. But anyway, so this guy, man, I'm talking about, though, he gets married in prison. And he was an all right cat, you know what I mean? He wasn't anybody that was like you were thinking was going to get involved in anything crazy, especially because they only had like 6-8 months to do. Okay. Well, was he a bigger guy, smaller guy? Really, because the audience can know. Mediocre, man. Because
we got to picture this because everybody wants a picture. Okay, because people are thinking, okay, what if I'm bigger? What if I'm more muscular? You know, they want to know. You know how people
that don't even matter, bro.
I know it doesn't, but people like to know.
I'm a small guy, and most all the fights I've won were with people bigger than me.
Dude, that's usually how it goes too, bro. Never mess with short guys or tall, skinny guys.
Oh no,
dude.
Bro. Oh no, I got knocked out by a short Mexican in prison, bro, who did a freaking a swing kick off the bunk.
Oh my gosh, karate Mexican guy. That's the first time, dude.
Yeah, man. You know, and he was a super quiet guy, and I was talking mad crap because I had a big mouth. You
know? We all live and learn.
That's what always. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't learn until way later.
This guy, you're an animal, bro. So what happened with
bro, like I got brain damage, homie. I know you can't tell now, man, but I had moments. Bro.
Yeah, no problem, dog. I feel you.
Oh snap. Anyway, this guy, man, I got to tell you about this guy because this was still, you know, this is one that stuck with me because it blew me away. Because he gets married, right? He gets married, marries his wife, you know, beautiful black woman, man. You know, we were out there in the rec yard while they're doing all this, you know, so we're kind of watching and stuff. We get back to the pod that night and we're all, you know, cooking up, eating, stuff like that. Everybody lays down to go to bed. And not long after, you know, they shut the lights off and stuff, I walked back to go to the pit to take a piss. He walked through. I was in the back of the dorm, so I had to walk through the dorm, walk to the back, you know, to go take a piss. And they got a line of urinals, you know what I mean, that are separated by like these little cement walls. And so I'm going back, and I go all the way to the back urinal, and I'm taking a piss, and all of a sudden I start hearing it. And I'm like, man, there they go, already getting it. Gosh. You know, so last place you want to go in the middle of the night is to go take a piss. Jeez. Because they're getting it in every night, bro. The dudes are getting it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way around it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why we used to tease, man. You go take a shower right now, you're going to become a stepdaddy.
Oh, my God, bro. Jeez, it is wild then. Jeez. So, God, man, that gives me stomach aches.
I'm back there taking a piss, and I'm just like, I'm rolling my eyes like, dang. You know, so I walk out, and as I'm walking out, they got this one small little light, so you kind of see a little bit. Well, I look over, and it's that dude, man, getting it with one of the guys in the dorm.
Wait a minute. Is he giving it to them, or are they giving it to him?
No, he's getting it. They're giving it to him.
Oh, my God, dude.
So, bro, I go back to my bunk, and, I had the whole corner sewed up. I get back there, and I'm like, bro, you guys have never guessed who's back there getting it right now. And I forget the dude's name. We knew it, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, man, bro, back there getting it. Did he just get married today? Yeah, man. He couldn't wait another 3 months to get out to screw his wife, and he's back there getting it.
Wait, so were they raping him, or was he wanting to do this?
No, he wanted to do this.
Oh, my God.
Dude, because the next day he was just walking around just kind of like ashamed because everybody knew because everyone was just laughing at him.
Oh,
you know
my God, dude. What a...
And I remember And so he goes to get on his phone to like call his wife. And so, you know, everyone's walking by him while he's on the phone with his wife saying stuff. You know what I mean?
Miss you,
Just
baby.
saying
Love
crazy
you.
stuff to him. All type of stuff, grabbing him. You know what I'm saying? Grabbing his ass.
Oh my God, dude. That's
But,
terrible, man.
Yeah. The worst though, man, is you do have these little white guys who come in there, man, never gotten in trouble in their life, just so happened to got caught up in a situation, whether they were like guilty by association, because that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You end up getting convicted for something your friend did, but just because you were there, all of a sudden you get convicted too. So you see a lot of that. You know, you see these kids come in, man, they never gotten in trouble in their life, bro, and they're in a medium max prison.
Getting turned out or what?
Dude, you're in the Shark Tank, bro.
Shit. Jeez, man.
So, you know, a couple things happen. Either you get in there, you realize what's going on, and you check in, which means you go knock on the window and you tell them, hey, I'm backing up my stuff, send me the seg. You see a lot of kids who come in there and they just get too scared and they just go do all their time in seg, which
seg is like PC, right?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. I mean, it's PC. Yeah, when we call it PC, but it's seg. It's like getting in a fight, getting locked up in segregation, you know.
Man.
But we just call it PC, protected custody, you know. Or, you know, these kids try to stick around, and then you see them just kind of shaking in the corner a little bit, and then you see the big guy on the block and they're not even big. Like, you think, you know, people who have never been to prison, they think, oh, Big Bubba, like this is some big 350-pound guy who's ready to take the butthole. No, bro, it's normally somebody who's smaller, you know what I'm saying, skinny, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
You obviously, you know, you got the bigger dudes in there that they're getting it too, but like a lot of these dudes, man, are, you know, big dudes.
Is it more like manipulation or is it more fear? Like, do they, like, because I've heard many things. I heard, like, you know, for example, this kid, you're a young kid, I'm scared, and the guy just kind of nice to you, I'll give you this, give you that, I'll protect you, and then a week later, oh, you know, he tells 10 guys to threaten him, you know, kind of set him up, and hey, bro, I'll protect you from these guys as long as, you know, pull your pants down. Like, is it like that, or do they beat you into submission?
Yeah, sure, it's like that, man. Yeah, I mean, it's more like that. If you're willing to fight and scrap, and it doesn't even mean like you have to actually beat them in a fight. If you just fight back, they'll leave you alone.
Wow.
But people don't know that. They don't think that. They don't realize that, you know. But there are those moments where, you know, like it mainly happens in like a reception center, is when you see the brutal rapings.
What's that, like the reception center? Well,
because it's so transient, right? So guys are coming in and out of there frequently, like daily. You know, it's not a permanent camp for everybody.
Have you witnessed or been around?
For some, yeah. So in Florida and Orlando, so when I first got to Orlando prison, you know, you could tell the guys that have been there forever. You could tell the guys who are permanent because of their cells, right? Like they'll have permanent cells and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's always a guy on your block in the reception center that's a permanent, and he's a permanent on your block. But like everybody else in there is, you know, is transient. They're going to be shipped out of there eventually. So this is where you see a lot of the like the brutal rapings go on. So like this one instance, like I'm in the reception center. They got this one black dude who's, you know, the permanent in the block, and everyone's like, yeah, you know, he's been around for a while. Y'all might want to watch him. You know, he's got a reputation, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
Especially if you ain't living like that, you know? And so that's like, everybody kind of knows this right about this guy, you know? And so our first rec yard visit, we go out to rec yard, and, you know, he stays back, and there was this other little white kid that just got shipped into our unit. He decides to stay back, and they were the only two that stayed back while the rest of us went to the rec yard. Well, when we came back, they had everything taped off. They had his cell taped off. There was just blood all over the floor inside of his cell, all over his bunk and everything. And they were like, "Yep, bro just got raped." And so, yeah, that was a brutal one. That was a brutal one.
Like brutal when you say like
just that fast, he gets into the cell. Within minutes, we get sent to the rec yard. And within minutes, he's got his butthole ripped open.
And this blood is from that. Oh, yeah. My God.
Yeah.
Brother.
Oh, yeah, bro.
Poor kid, bro.
if you're a virgin booty hole, bro, they're not easing that in there, bro.
Man, dude, it just blows my mind, bro, that it's just so crazy to me, dude, that men do this. And yeah, people, you know, anyone who's in prison, oh, I'm doing, you know, they're doing life. You don't know how, you know, even if I was doing life, because I'm not in that position, I just can't even think of that being an option for me, bro. Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It has to be the devil, dude.
Man, it is the devil, bro. God. But I'll say this, man, it ain't everybody. If you have a lick of man in you, bro, you'll be just fine. I'll just say that now. Like, you're a man before anything. And if you operate that way, bro, people will they'll respect that. You know what I mean? And like, that was like, most of the things I got out of had nothing to do with my affiliation with the gang. It had everything to do with the way I carried myself, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will back down from you just by the way you carry yourself.
Yeah.
It's just by the way you walk, talk, eat, and breathe, and talk and communicate. And they see you ain't living like that. They see you ain't no snitch. They see you ain't no thief. They see you and bro, if you don't invade anybody's privacy, pop anyone's bubble, steal from anybody, if you're not just a little,
POS.
My language, if you ain't just a little bitch, you know what I mean? Then you'll be fine. Like, guys get it, they go in, they do their time, they come out unscathed. You see it all the time. You see a lot of guys like that happens to, that do make it out of there just fine. But you see everything else in between too.
Brother,
see, you know,
and
then Florida prison, and then within the Latin gangs, they're constantly stabbing and poking each other up. So you're constantly, you know, seeing stuff going on.
What's the craziest thing that you've seen in prison that was violent? If you could talk about it.
Gosh. Yeah, I can talk about it, especially the prison stuff. I'd rather talk about the prison stuff.
Let's do it, dude. Stuff. Give us a couple war stories. I got 40 minutes left on this time card. I would love to hear them.
Let's see. Well, I guess I'll give you two of them. So, my main camp in Florida. Florida is where I saw a lot of people getting poked up. Was in Florida. I mean, I saw some crazy stuff in Illinois. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, there's a lot of order and structure and things in the Illinois prisons and stuff like that. That there's more chain of command to the way you operate.
Yeah.
Kind of in the Illinois prison.
Kind of have to have permission from the up guys, or?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Most of the time, it depends on what gang you're affiliated with and all that stuff. Like, you know, the black gangs are different from the Mexican gangs, are different from the Aryan gangs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they all have different politics and stuff like that. So it all depends, you know, on the politics and things like that. But
and you were a white male in a Latin gang, right?
Yeah. So we have what's called insane sets in Chicago. Most of the insane sets are multicultural. So you have black, whites, and Mexicans in this gang.
Didn't know that.
But the gang originated as a white gang. It was a white, Czech, and Polish gang out of South Chicago.
Okay.
And then when the migration came in and all the Mexicans and blacks came in, they started recruiting Mexicans, and it just became predominantly a Latin organization.
Okay.
And so there's a history to that. We got tied into the ULO in time, where there are a lot of like the Spanish Cobras, or, you know, Latin Eagles, or the insane gang, or the Imperial Gangsters, and things like that. The Razas, the Ambros, like they started off as Mexican gangs.
Yeah.
Where the gang I was affiliated with, we were originally a white gang in Chicago.
Okay.
That over time became a Latin, and it's now predominantly Latin sets. We got a couple sets on the south and southwest side that are interracial, like the block I came from, 18th of California. It's blacks, whites, and Mexicans.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to know for the audience.
And the white boys, you know, not just to say because I'm a white boy, but the white boys are the ones you got to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Especially
they can fit
the white
in.
boys that are involved in Latin organizations.
Yes. They have a different window. They can get into the other places we can't.
Well, not only that, you got to be the first one to bust off. You got to be the first one to hit the tag. You got to be the first one. You know what I mean? You got to kind of prove yourself a little bit more than the rest.
Yeah.
Because you're a white boy. You know what I mean? So
the stigma. Yeah.
Some of us are willing to do a little bit more than others sometimes.
Yeah.
Just to gain that respect. You know.
Yeah, loco güero.
But anyway, Florida's really washed down, watered up. That's what we call it, watered down, washed up. As far as like gang structure and things like that go, a lot of the gangs that are in prison in Florida are Chicago sets. you know, so you got GDs and IGDs and, you know, Spanish Cobras and IGs and stuff like that, all Chicago sets. And you have them in the prison systems all over the country. You know what I mean? Chicago gangs are in the prisons everywhere and, you know, whatever. But in Florida, it's a little bit different. They've kind of watered down a lot of the laws and the literature and things like that. And so in prison, you see a lot of these guys, you know, get themselves in situations to where
let's get into that.
You know, they ends up costing them their life. You know what I mean?
So, like, what happened? Like, what was the one that stuck with you? Like, man, that just, you know what I mean? One of those moments.
Yeah. So I got my GED in prison. So when I was at school one day, we had a guy who worked in the mechanics unit, which was right across from where we were going to school. So we could see, like, out of our windows in our classrooms, we could see the mechanic shop right across the way. Well, there was a guy in there who's been in the prison for like 12 years. He was a super quiet guy, but he was really well liked too by the prison guards and by everything like that. And so he had a guy come into the prison that apparently was part of his organization, whatever he was. I don't know what he was at this time. But apparently, what we found out later on is he was false flagging. Well, the guy took that very seriously. One day we're at school, and we're looking out the windows at the mechanic shop, and next thing you know, we literally watched the guy grab a hammer, and he shoved the back end of the hammer into the top of this dude's skull.
Oh my God!
Right in front of us, and everybody in the classroom, the teacher was like, "Whoa!" That was crazy, right? So then, not even 20 minutes later, here comes the helicopter, and they airlifted him out of there. They just landed right in front of the school building.
Oh man, what happened? Like the blood squirt everywhere.
Oh yeah, bro. Well, it was crazy because the guard came and he like pulled the hammer out. And so when he pulled, which was a mistake because I think the guy
started bleeding more, right? He died, huh? Man, he had to die.
I think he bled to death. Well, we didn't ever see him again, and normally we don't ask questions either. It's like, you know, normally if you see him again, then see that's another thing. Is like, so a lot of the Latin gangs and stuff, you got Norteños and Sureños, right? I'm sure you've heard of these two gangs.
Sureños, of course,
California.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So in Florida, you know, they kill on sight. So in the compound I was in, it was majority Norteños. So anytime Sureño would come into the camp, they wouldn't even unroll their mat before they were about to get jumped, right? So I was in this unit one time, and we were about to go to lunch. I decided to stay back for lunch. Well, we had just got this Sureño into our unit, and I'll never forget it. He was just sitting on his box, and he was just sitting there. He wouldn't unroll his mat, and so I go up and talk to him, and I see the 4 dots on his head. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, you know, Sureño, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "What's up, you ain't going to chow?" And he just kind of looked at me. He didn't say nothing. He put his head down. Well, right after I said that, I walked back to my bunk. I was in the back corner. I get in my bunk, and I'm about to start reading. Well, next thing you know, I see the door get buzzed, and 4 Norteños came in there. And next thing you know, he gets up off his box. They walk into the day room, and then he just gets poked up. And they were poking him up so much, the dude was all up on the wall. Like, he was off his feet. They were poking him up so much. And so the guards let him in.
I know. I was about to say, it sounds like it was set up. It's like a movie, dude. Not, you know, this is real life, but like a movie. Boom, the buzzer goes in, everyone walks. That's wild, man.
So whoever runs the compound, man, you know, it is what it is. So
dead? That guy died.
The inmate, I don't know if he died. I couldn't tell you, but I know he got shipped right back out of there. Because it's a mistake, bro. You're not supposed to, like I said, if you end up putting somebody on the compound that is of a rival gang, especially when they have, you know, flags out, kill on sight for this opposing gang, the last thing you want to do is put the opposing gang in the same unit as them.
Yeah, that wasn't by accident. Yeah, and just to say, I mean, when you talk to that guy and you ask him, he looked at you and didn't say anything. Now that you're looking back at it, do you think he knew it was coming? That's why he just kind of ignored you?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, most definitely. And that wasn't the first time that happened. That was just the first time that happened in front of me. Right? So a lot of that was happening out on the rec yard. Most of that would happen out on the rec yard. You'd see it. You know, you see this stuff happen on the rec yard sometimes daily, mostly like every other day. You might get a couple of days throughout the week where it's calm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where everybody can just kind of go about their business. But, bro, like, you know, tension's high. The tension's high in places like that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, do you cut the tension with the
know,
knife?
You feel it in the air. You just know. You just know.
You know when it's coming. Oh, jeez, man.
Know.
That's awful.
Because you look at everyone, you see everyone's countenance. You see the way everyone's got shanks. You know what I'm saying? So everyone's kind of walking a certain way. You know what I mean?
And then another thing, too, they say when your shoes are everyone's shoes are on, tied up, right? That's another reason, too. You're ready to go. Shoes are on.
Well, yeah, and if they're not, we tell you to tighten up.
Yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
And that's what it means. Yeah, we just come walk right up to you and say, tighten up. That means you're trying to throw down.
Man.
You know, and you ain't backing out of a fight. I don't know anybody that's backed out of a fight. That's not something you want to do in prison.
If you back out, you're done, right? Like, you're a target. You back down, you're done.
Well, I mean, you're gonna check in is what you're gonna do. I mean, you could get lucky, you know what I'm saying? And the person that wanted to fight you might be just as much of a bitch as you are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
He's like,
I mean, that's really.
He's praying, please don't fight me, but I'm asking him to fight me. Jeez, man.
But you faking the funk, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got a good bark. We call it chuck hole woofing.
Bro,
you got a good woof to you.
That. You know, when I went to jail, I've been arrested like 4 or 5 times, man. I think the longest I was in there was like almost a month, man. But just like when I don't, like I said, we're not better than anybody, but every time I got in there, when I was in there, I always felt like, man, what am I doing here? You know, why am I here? Because some people in jail, bro, let's just be real. Some of them are very intelligent people and have things going and can get better, but there's some people there that are so dumb and just want to. Some people want to be there, bro. Like,
there's no doubt about it.
There was one time when I think the
three hots in the cot, bro.
Yeah, one time, the third time I got arrested, right? And I was in there. And I wasn't there for like probably about 2 weeks before. After 2 weeks, I finally got enough money for my friends, whatever, to bail out. And then one of the guys like, "Hey, bro, who are you talking to on the phone?" You know, just having a conversation. "Oh, bro, I'm gonna get bailed out." He's like, "What, bro? For what?" He's like, "Dog, you don't have to bail out, bro. How much is the bail?" And whatever. He's like, "Oh, bro, it's a lot of money, dog. You know, all you gotta do is just stay in jail. You don't have to pay. You could just stay in here, bro. You get 3 meals, bro. You got a jail when your court's over." Well, bro, my case is gonna go on for like a year and a half. I can't just be in here for a year and a half. I have a job outside, bro. He's like, "Oh, bro." He's like, "Just stay in here, dog. You eat free, you get free rent." And I was like, bro, that mentality made me want to get out of there, dude. I was like, I'm out of here, dude. I was like, I'm out.
You should, bro, because you were not raised in an environment or, you weren't in a situation to where that was your only option. I've been in that situation. I have turned myself in at times to where I'm like, you know what? I'm about to die out here on these streets. I might as well just turn myself in and go do my time. I've done that a couple times.
Yeah,
I have. Not necessarily because it's 3 hots in the cot, but more so to save your life, bro. Prison saves people's lives too, man.
No, I heard that a lot. And drug addicts too,
there's
man.
There's guys in there. Look, bro, there's guys in there that go in there, man, and it does rehabilitate them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I mean, it helped me. It helped me. I mean, I went there 4 or 5 times, but bro, every time I went in there, I was more like, dude, what am I doing here? Yeah. Why am I here? You know what I mean?
It's a good way to figure out what not to do.
There was nothing every time I went in there was nothing more that every time I went in there, it's the same thing in your head. God, if you just get me out of here, I will never come back here again. I went in more than once, but every time that feeling was stronger and stronger. And now I have like a paranoia now, because every time I get pulled over by a cop, I always got arrested in the past. You know what I mean? I don't get a lot of speeding tickets or nothing. Every time I've been, out of like 10 times I've been pulled over, 5 times I went in the truck. So now when I get pulled over for a ticket, I get all this anxiety and PTSD. I'm like, dude, I do not want to be there. The smell of bar soap, the smell of the laundry there, that smell gives me anxiety, dude. I'm like, dude, I don't want to smell bar soap. Bro.
Yeah. You got to take showers with your shower shoes on. Yep. You don't want no fungi on your feet.
Nope, absolutely, dude. So when you were in there.
Well, eventually, bro, when you do time like that, man, like as much as, I got a lot of guys that have done more time than I have, but I've done a fair amount of time.
How long? Total?
Let's see. In prison, probably, 10 years. So I say a sawbuck, like 10 years.
Wow, dog. You've been there.
Prison, but I've done more county time probably than than that.
Nah, but you're seasoned. That's what I'm trying to say, man.
Yeah.
And living.
Not to say that I'm proud of it, but what it did was, man, it got me in the mentality where I was institutionalized. Where it's like I had more anxiety getting out than I did when I was in.
Yeah.
Eventually to get to where it's comfortable. Eventually you get to where you're comfortable in that environment. And I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, like really quick. I have a quick story. I think I told you a little bit about it. I have an acquaintance who went to prison in the South in the 90s. And when I first talked to you, he told me the second time he got out of prison, he took a train and he got off at a train station. He was so institutionalized that when he walked out, there were so many people. He started freaking out, having anxiety. There's so many people walking around, and some bum, like a bum, the ones that are aggressive, they bug, let me get $1, let me get money, but he was like bugging him for money, but he was so like institutionalized, and in prison, you don't let nobody get that close. You end up clocking them, right? So this bum was just asking for money, ended up knocking him out. Cops saw him, arrested him, and then he, and the guy and my friend says, you know what, bro, like I've been in prison this long. Is like, in prison, I'm not used to this, people coming up to me in prison. We're always on our guard. Like I didn't do that to, like, I'm sorry. And the cop actually was cool and just said, you know what, bro, I'm not gonna do you like this. I'm gonna let you out, bro, but just be good. You know what I mean? And let him out. He ended up going to prison again, but it's just an example of like how institutionalized. Like a bum to him asking for money was just freaking him out. Like, bro, you're too close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's true. It's true, man. You know what I mean?
And how long did it take you to snap out of that?
It took a while. I think I fully kind of came over it within the last 5 years.
Oh, okay.
I got saved in 2015. But I'll say this, man, my last decade of doing time, in and out, I was battling a heroin addiction too. So I couldn't get out of prison and stay sober for the life of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got to the point where, I reached a point of no return, bro. I was shooting dope. You know what I mean? I was shooting heroin and stuff. And when I found Jesus, I was shooting cocaine and heroin. I was speedballing.
Oh, wow, brother. That's
by the time I cried out to the Lord.
And that's hard to come back from. That's hard to come back from.
It is. So,
you did it.
I had institutionalization on top of self-medication, on top of trauma, on top of, you know what I mean? Just gang life and all that stuff, bro, caught up to me. You know what I mean? And so when I got out of prison that last time, it didn't take no time before I had a needle back in my arm,
Yeah,
and like I said, you end up spending most of your life running from yourself. My grandma used to tell me, everywhere you go, there you are, Sean. Everywhere you go, there you are. Meaning it doesn't matter the geographical change you make. If you don't change, your lifestyle ain't going to change.
Yeah. Your grandma was a very wise woman.
Very much
very
so.
Good person too.
I still use that motto today because now everywhere I go, there he is, because I have the Lord in my life.
Amen. No, dude, you completely turn. Like I said, man, there's a lot of people don't come back from things like this. A lot of people do not come back, and you did, and it's
there's a lot of things in my past that I have a hard time even identifying with anymore. A lot of times when I tell these stories, I feel like I'm telling someone else's story because just of how much my life has changed. I'm a family man today, brother, and ministry is my life. The Lord is my life. I have 2 beautiful baby girls. I have a home. I'm married to an amazing woman. God gave me a life today, bro, that I never would have dreamed of. If you would have told me this was going to happen, my last bid in prison, I would have said, you a lie.
Oh, man.
You a damn lie. But then, like with Christ, all things are possible, man. My life is what it is today because the Lord changed my life.
Yeah.
And I had he took a heart of stone and he turned it into a heart of flesh. Like I had remorse, for the lives that I've destroyed and the things that I've done in my past, and I've received a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace to get to where I can even share my story today.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are trapped. There are a lot of people, that went through what I went through that don't have a voice. Aren't able to talk about it. They don't know how, so I want to be that open door. I want to be that place where guys can open up where, where they're not afraid to actually talk about these things, bro.
No, absolutely,
because
man.
It's plaguing humanity, anxiety, depression, mental health issues, bro, schizophrenia, bipolar, all that stuff comes with that life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And until you're able to actually receive the forgiveness that is needed through the blood of Jesus Christ, then you're going to be stuck. You're going to be bonded. You're going to be trapped. And I'm only here today, bro, because the Lord healed me from this. You know, he cleaned me up, and he's given me an opportunity to reach back. And so I want to take advantage of that, bro. You know, I told the Lord, I said, man, I just want you to do everything you possibly want to do with me since you decided to keep me alive. You know, I went, you know, I hit the ground running. You know, I did a lot of dirt for the kingdom of Satan. I want to do 100 times that for the kingdom of the Lord.
Amen.
You know, like that's my heart today, bro. Like,
and that's the
I want to
thing.
help people, man.
That's the thing too. You always been able to serve and serve good, but you just got caught up with the wrong master at first. Because, like I said,
I did.
You like someone who's very intelligent, smart, who's willing to do whatever it is to do the right thing. If the devil could get that person, you're gonna do works for the devil. You know what I'm saying? Like the devil knows you. The devil knows people. Like that's why he took you, because he knows if he don't have you, you're gonna be working harder for God. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's the way I see it.
I tell people all the time, man, my worst day today is better than my best day without the Lord, bro.
That's what I say all the time.
My worst day with Christ is better than my best day out there on them streets, bro.
Man, amen to that. Because, like I said, man,
because I know whose I am today.
Just as much
I know who I am today.
As much energy as people put into the gang and representing it and recruiting people and all that stuff. Imagine that person putting that much energy into God. That's why I always tell myself, I was like, dude, imagine you did all this for God. Your life would be better. You'll help people, change lives, help yourself. You know, that's the way I see it, man. Like some people who, you know, like you said, some people spend their years trying to learn gang lingo and, you know, the rules and laws. Do that for the Bible and your life would be better. That's why I think the people that are at the top of these gangs, they're actually, some of them are very smart people and they have a lot of drive to get stuff done. But the problem is they're working for the wrong master. That's the way I see it. And
well, you got that right. Just look at our government today, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, look what's going on.
They're gangsters, bro. Barack Obama's from South Chicago, homie.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay? You know, we say in Chicago, real gangsters go to the polls.
Yep, that's right. That's
real gangsters get involved in true, real movements in our communities. We get a part of being an influence and an impact of changing the culture of our society. That's the way real gangsters and mobsters look at it, and they move in silence, brother. Real gangsters ain't loud and obnoxious with it. They move in silence, bro. They get the job done and done right.
Absolutely right. You don't go around screaming, "Oh
not
yeah!"
Something you want to play with.
Yeah, no, it's not a game.
Not
I mean,
something
look,
you want to play with, bro.
And these people could take you out from someone that you wouldn't even think that was connected to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their reaches are far.
Outrun Chicago. That's what I tell people all the time. You can't outrun it.
No, Obama will get you from anywhere. If you're in the Middle East, he'll just hit you with a drone, man. It's no get. You know what I mean?
They still don't know who killed Sam Giancana. And I don't know if you know who he is. He was the leader of the Chicago outfit, and he was untouchable. That's what they called him, the untouchable.
Do you have a little theory for that, or what happened?
Well, I mean, you know, someone on the streets,
government took him out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the government let his own people take him out. Is what I think.
Oh, okay, it's a little manipulation.
Yeah, I mean,
on.
You know, there's only one man standing at the end of all that. You know.
And that's going to be God.
Neither here nor there.
So,
bro.
With that being said, brother, thank you for sharing the show. We have because the show's 2 hours, we got 10. So in these 10 minutes, if you want, brother, I would love for you to say any last words and also just tell the people, you know, whatever you want to say with a prayer. But go ahead, just get any last words. If you have any websites or your ministry, you want to plug in your social media, all that good stuff, brother. I would love for you to get that out there. And again, I really do appreciate you telling these stories. I know the stories are not easy to tell. And I was really excited to hear it. And I'm glad that you did it because I have a lot of people that I think would benefit from hearing this. And there's also a lot of people that think their life is very hard. And trust me, life can be harder, like being in situations like you. And it also shows people to me that, look, this happened to you. You can come back. If you can come from this, some people that think their life is, either they can't turn it around, anything's possible. So that's why I got you on here. And that's why I wanted you on here. I'm very glad you were very honest and very genuine. And I just, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I thank Vicky Joy for plugging us in. Vicky is an absolute angel. I'm very happy that she's in my life. That woman has been such an angel to me. And there's like the third guest she's brought to me. And all the guests she's brought to me have been friends to me on a weekly basis, at least, that we talk. So again, sorry for going off and yapping them up. But thank you. If you have any last words, please go ahead and say whatever you want to say, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Outside of this entire conversation, I'm grateful I got to share my story and everything. But the most important piece I want to share is, like, you don't have to go through what I went through to find God. You don't have to go through what I went through to have a right relationship with the Lord. You can do that right here and right now. You don't have to go through the same pain, the experiences and the trauma and the hardships and things that I went through. Whatever it is that you went through in life, all of it is leading you to one place, and that's to cry out to Jesus with everything in your heart. He's the only one that can save you. He's the only one that can change you. He's the only one that can deliver you and set you free from whatever it is that you're going through. Like, I'm standing here today, saved, sanctified, and set free from the bondage the enemy had on my life. Okay, I thought that I was living free. No, I was living in bondage. I was trapped in the way that I was living. And it wasn't until Christ came into my life to where I realized I was trapped. It wasn't until I gave and surrendered my life to God to where I realized, no, this is true liberty. This is true freedom. The experience I have today, knowing that I don't have to die the way that I was living my entire life. I now get to live for a purpose, right? I feel like I actually have a purpose in life. And I feel like it's a purpose that is leading other people to their purpose. And so, man, that's just know, man, God loves you. God wants to know you, and he wants you to know him, and he wants to make him known to others. And so that's the whole goal. That's your whole purpose for living, is to find that identity that is only found in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Each and every one of us were created in the image of God. It's a matter for us to understand that, accept it, and to receive it into our lives. So, man, I went through hell. Some of us go to hell before we make it to heaven, but you don't have to. Like, you can go to heaven today, and you can know that you're going to heaven today, and you don't have to deal with the depression, the anxiety, the unforgiveness, all the stuff that's burdening you in your life right now. You can give it to God, and God can take that from you. You just have to let him. You just got to let him. It's the most important step that we should take, but for some reason, it's the last step we take. Don't make it the last step you take, right? Don't make the Lord your last resort. You can make him your first resort, But if it does take for you to make him your last resort, he's still there. He's standing at the door. He's knocking. He's just waiting for you to answer. So, man, if you gained anything from this, just know that God loves you, man. And at the other end of this, whatever you went through in your life, man, you're never too far gone. Never. Don't let the enemy, let nobody tell you you're too far gone. Don't let anybody tell you that you ain't got no worth left in you and that you're hopeless, because you're not. Okay, God can take whatever you're going through and he can turn it around. He can use it for his good and for his glory. I promise you that. I promise. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it. We have to do this again sometime,
Yes, absolutely, man. I would love to have you come back on. You said you had, and it's up to you, brother. Like, you want to share whatever you want. You want me to share some stuff, we can go back and forth on the next one, but I would love to hear about the stuff that you were saying, that you have some information about the Freemasons, but that's all up to you, brother. But again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm going to close out really quick for the timer's up, but don't hang up. I'm going to talk to you after. So Give me a second really quick. So guys, thank you very much for listening to the show. I really appreciate everyone spending their time and listening to me and my guests. I know that time is very limited. So the fact that you guys stay around and spend 2 hours of your time to listen to my podcast and my guests tell their story, it really means a lot to me. So thank you guys for being such amazing guests. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe on all my social medias. All the links are in the bios of the episodes. Also, if you want to help the show grow, please, it's only $7 a month. You get access to members only exclusive episodes, and you get a discount on the merchandise. We got t-shirts and we got stickers. There's going to be more coming. But again, thank you everybody for listening. All this is through the grace of God. I wouldn't have any listeners if I didn't have so many believers in Christ. So you guys are the main reason, and God is the main reason.